This week, we are talking about feelings. And feelings encompass a wide range of things. So if you want to follow along with the notes, we can pop the note slide up. If you can follow along there, those are online. You can text that number and follow along. So feelings encompass a wide range of things that are felt, specifically sensations, desires, and emotions. So what are some feelings that we have? We feel warm, we feel hungry, we feel an itch, we feel fearful. Feelings include dizziness and thirst, sleepiness, weariness, sexual interest and desire, pain, pleasure, loneliness, and homesickness, anger, jealousy, but also comfort and satisfaction, a sense of power and accomplishment, curiosity, intellectual gratification, compassion for others, and the enjoyment of beauty, a sense of honor and delight in God, aesthetic experiences of art or beauty, personal relations, and actions all involve feeling and moreover require that the feeling be somehow right. So feelings are any kind of sensation, desire, or emotion that we have. That's a very wide range of life things that happen to us. What we commonly associate as feelings are more so conditions. So, for example, I feel bitter. Bitterness, the feeling of bitterness, which is this, like tightness, okay? We feel a sensation of maybe tightness or like anger toward a sense of injustice, like, why is this happening to me? We feel those sensations, but the condition of bitterness is a state of mind that we are in, that we are not letting go of something that happened to us. Does that make sense? So conditions, feelings are usually built off of conditions. Now, if I were to tell you, get rid of your bitterness, this isn't going to work. We have to identify the roots of bitterness and deal with it there through our thinking and information and thinking. We cannot directly control all of our feelings. We can direct them, but we can't completely control them. Feelings are something that are dangerous because they impact and permeate every part of us that it touches. Like bitterness doesn't just stay focused on the one person. When I'm in a state of being angry at somebody, what happens is that anger bleeds over into every other area of my life. So feelings are very powerful. They have a power to destroy our whole being. So when we have feelings that we allow to stay for long periods of time, the feelings that we allow to be present in our life for long periods of time become moods. Okay? Extreme examples of moods are like clinical depression. Clinical depression is a feeling of sorrow or rejection or something like that we've allowed to stay in our life for a long period of time. Then it becomes a mood that we're generally in a depressed state. And then it can get even more extreme where it gets into a clinical level where the The fixing of it might involve medication or extreme forms of discipline to train our mind to not be depressed anymore. So, feelings that are dwelt upon by habit become moods, okay? This is true for negative emotions and true for positive emotions. Now, emotions tie into our wants. And America and modern society is built upon the idea of getting what we want, okay? The idea of freedom. Now, as we talked about last week, freedom is an idea. We can't fully define it and specify it, but we all kind of have this idea that we are designed to be free. And part of that freedom is the right to pursue what makes us happy. So we have the right to pursue what we want to pursue. And when we base our life upon getting what we want, it is self-destructive. And the problem is that this idea is very pervasive throughout all of American culture, getting what we want. I mean, I was just thinking about this last night and talking with Hannah. It's like when I teach my boys a hard work ethic, I'm tying it into, well, if you work hard, you can get what you want. I realized, oh my goodness, I might be furthering the condition, the problem within my boys of working to get what I want. There is a part of us that needs to understand what is right and good, and we do it because it's necessary. And we need to learn the difference between wants and needs. So because our culture is very wealthy in America, we have the opportunity to decide the things that we want. In fact, there are so many opportunities for what to do with our time that we end up overwhelmed by the number of decisions that we can make. Being overwhelmed by the decisions means that we are now no longer making decisions based on needs, because we have all of our needs met. Now we are making our decisions based on wants. Poorer cultures, they don't have as big of a problem with living their life pursuing what they want, because they have to work and get certain things done in order to get the basic needs of life. The third world country is like this. Poor societies are like this. Often the working class is like this. They have to work hard and do the things that they know to do in order to survive. So their time isn't spent thinking about getting what they want. And because of that, they live a more disciplined lifestyle. Now, the problem with building our life based on getting what we want is that we become given to basing the decisions of our life on feelings. And feelings are powerful motivators, but very bad masters. Okay? So we have two extremes. People will either try to deny feelings or repress them, or they will give in to them and follow after them. If you deny or repress them, the end result is that you become a dead soul. Someone who cannot feel is a dead soul. The dead soul has no interest in anything. So they have no motivation to do anything or to act. They become in a state where they are waiting for something to happen to them. And a person who doesn't feel anything has to shift from the motivation of feeling to a motivation of willpower. They depend on their willpower to try to get the job done without feeling. This condition cannot be sustained for long. When you are building your life on pure willpower, you cannot sustain that lifestyle for long. The result is that you turn toward anything to help you feel again. So someone who represses or denies feeling, they have to utilize their willpower to do everything. The result is that eventually there's a breakdown, and they will turn toward anything to make them feel something. This is where we get addictions from alcohol, from drugs. This is where we get addictions to sex. We get addictions to TV, make us feel something. I can't live a happy life, so I'm going to watch other people live a happy life. I'm going to check out of my reality into a fantasy reality and enjoy that for my evenings because I want to feel something. So feelings are not a bad thing. We have to utilize feelings to motivate us to live well, but we can't allow them to control us. We have to control them in the sense of build them properly. So we are not repressing feelings. This is really heady stuff, so forgive me. We'll work out all of this as time goes, especially as we get into the Sermon on the Mount come in September. I'm setting the stage so that as we preach and learn through the Sermon on the Mount, we will be able to connect this to how we actually are transformed. How we actually are transformed. So we're setting the stage for that. Instead of denying feelings or repressing them, we need to replace them with good ones. And we need to take the dangerous feelings, things like anger, passion, desire, and we need to subordinate them, put them underneath the primary virtuous feelings. Replacing feelings is the key to moving forward in a life of God. This is not something that's done easily. It takes time because we have to change ideas and images to change the core disposition of our mood. We have to get the feelings to move into the subconscious. That way our automatic responses to the things that happen to us in life, when someone cuts us off in traffic, our automatic response isn't anger, hostility, yelling, screaming, shaking the fist, speeding up and then riding their tail. Our automatic response isn't that. Our automatic response is we're completely unaffected by that. We're not even concerned by it. Oh yeah, come on in. There is no emotion of anger or upsetness, not because we're dead to that emotion, but because there are greater emotions at work in our soul. Are you following with me? This is like a philosophy class at college, okay? Christian philosophy level stuff. You're getting the goods here. If you feel a little lost and confused as I talk, that is okay. You're challenging your thinking. You're growing and stretching the muscle called your brain, and that is perfectly okay. You can go back and watch the sermons again a second time. You can pick up the book Renovation of the Heart, try to read through that slowly. It's a tough read, but as you grow and stretch yourself, it's a healthy thing for the brain to do, just like physical exercise is. So we have to determine in our life to not want what we now want. If you want to change who you are as a person, this is important. You have to determine to not want what you now want and to want what you now don't want. That is a decision of intent. I intend to not want what I now want, and I intend to want what I now don't want. So I intend to not want to get angry and yell at my wife. I intend to want to serve my wife and do the dishes and chores for her. I don't want to do that now, but I'm going to decide to want what I don't want. So there's intention. With the intention, we need to develop a vision of the end goal. Images, right? Images are important. So we pass the information of what does it look like for me to be a husband who doesn't get angry and who loves to do chores for his wife? What would my marriage look like if I was that kind of a person? And I dwell upon that thought. I allow that information to pass before me and to become an image in my mind through my thinking. As time goes on, I intuitively see that image before me as I go to do the dishes. Then it becomes an automatic response that is enhanced by the feeling of the vision that I have placed upon that task. So we have to have intention. And that intention then should be turned toward building the proper feelings. There are 3 feelings in Christianity that are the foundation of everything else. When we get into the realm of feelings and we really consider what we're feeling, how we're feeling it, where we're feeling it, it can feel like we are in a world of chaos. And it's like, how do I organize all of my feelings? How do I take care of all of these things? Well, it's not really as difficult as it seems. If you work on the 3 primary Christian feelings, the most important 3, that honestly all work together. You cannot have one of these without the other 2. Then all the feelings will fall into place quite easily. So those feelings are, no surprise, love, joy, and peace. These are the 3 most important Christian virtues. And they form the basis for life in Christ and for the redeemed person. If you want to organize all of your emotions, you have to grow in love, joy, and peace. So let's spend some time talking about those. This is the way of life. Now, 1 Corinthians 13:13, some of you may have that in your mind. And now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. So faith and hope are built upon joy and peace, or their destination is joy and peace. They're very tied together. So a few scriptures that we have for this: Romans 14:17. The kingdom of God consists of righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. Righteousness would be the acting of love, loving action. So let's talk about love. Love is goodwill, benevolence, the will to do good to another. Now, in our modern vernacular, I might say I love chocolate ice cream. Personally, it's vanilla bean ice cream. Okay? I love vanilla bean ice cream, but do I actually love it? No, I don't. I want to eat it. If I loved it, I would want to seek its good, not its consumption. See the difference there? Now, the world and American culture has conflated want, the desire of something, to use it for personal satisfaction and gratification, as love. We use that language all the time. This is lust. It is not love. Love is the will to do good and to see good happen to another. We love something when we promote its good. And love is always accompanied with delight. That we delight in the thing that we love or the person that we love. The opposite of love is malice, the ill will, malevolence. I desire bad things to happen to another person. I want evil to happen to them. Now, we got to be careful as a community. In the political realm that we are in and the hostilities one to another, if you wish ill upon the other party, you are giving your heart to malice and not to love. And where do you think a heart bent on malice will get you? Do you think that you will have a good soul? So the opposite of love is malice. If love is just simply absent, that is indifference or apathy. We just don't care. We're indifferent one way or the other. We are caught up in a world where we are driven to wish ill upon our enemies or political opponents or cultural adversaries. We are driven to feel indifferent about people in need all around us. But love is to look at someone, to see them, and to desire good for them. We must grow in love. And there are 4 movements of love that we can grow in. One, and 1 John 4, 12 through 18 are wonderful verses that describe these movements. The 4 movements of love is first, that God loved us. If you are to grow in love, you are to allow the information of God loving you to pass before your mind and then to dwell upon those thoughts. God loves me. How much does God love me? Oh, he loves me more than all the sand on the seashore. His pleasant thoughts toward me outnumber the grains of sand on the seashore. God literally is in heaven right now making a checklist of every wonderful thing about me. And it keeps going for almost eternity. As big as the universe is, how many stars there are in the universe, those are the thoughts that God has about you that are pleasant and good and delightful. And yet, what do we always do? We see a God who is angry with us and wants nothing to do with us and is always pointing his finger at us. How dare you? You're a failure. Whose voice is that? Because it can't be God's. Scripture says otherwise. When we begin to allow the truth of Scripture to abide in our thinking, and we allow it to pass before our thinking. We have to train ourselves in this. You know, just because I'm saying it here on Sunday morning doesn't mean you're going to wake up on Monday morning and remember what I said. You have to train yourself. Some of the things that I did to train myself are by seeing everyday objects. I think I talked about this last week. Whenever I looked up and saw a blue sky, I imagined God smiling on me, smiling down at me. And somehow, a blue sky always made me happy because I trained my mind to imagine God smiling at me. Now, we use the word imagine as if it's make-believe. No, our imagination is not just to the realm of make-believe. Our imagination is to perceive or visualize something in the mental space and to become aware of a reality, whether it or a fantasy. So imagination can apply to either or. But God gave us an imagination so that we could see things that we can't see. For example, the love of God for us. For example, the love of my wife for me. Because I can't see that love, I have to imagine it. And it can be based on evidence, right? My wife shows signs that she loves me. But I have to imagine that she loves me, and I have to kind of get a picture that my wife really loves me. And sometimes I actually think about that. My wife really loves me and cares for me. Because if I don't, sometimes I'll begin to question, does she love me? Or is she just putting up with me? You know, like, does she really desire to spend time with me because she delights in me? You see, when in our relationships with another person, we need to learn to receive delight from God first, and then to meditate on them and how delightful they are. So the first movement is that we are loved by God, then we in turn love him. Okay? God loved us enough to sacrifice his life for us. That's a big deal. Like, who is it that condemns you? Jesus? He's the judge, is he not, of the whole world? He's the one who's going to send anybody and everybody to hell. And guess what? He died for that person, for you. So is Jesus going to condemn you if you go to him? No, because he died for you to save you. How about God the Father? Will he condemn you? God the Father sent Jesus, his only son, for your sake to save you. So who's going to condemn you? In Romans 8, Paul gets into this because it's fundamental to our thinking that God loves us beyond question and beyond our biggest capacity to understand it. In fact, in Ephesians chapter 3, at the end, Paul's prayer is that you would have power and strength to be able to simply grasp how love and high and long and deep is the love of God for you. To take hold of that love, to make it our own. Because when we receive the love of God, it's quite easy to love him back. And we have to learn to love for our soul to become healthy. Life transformation is built upon the emotion, the feeling of love, which is goodwill toward. God is goodwill toward me. I experience that, and I, in turn, love him back. Then, because this is happening, the third movement of love is that I love others through God. Okay? So often we are as people trying to get love from people. We're a church. I'm just going to be real a little bit this morning. I'm sorry. Okay. I hear all the time, I just don't feel connected at that church. I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel loved at that church. Now, there are spaces where that is definitely true. But if we pursue to be loved, we will never feel loved. If we are pursuing to be happy, we will never feel happy. If we pursue peace, we will never feel at peace. This is what Jesus said. He said, those who try to find life will lose it, but those who lose life for my sake will find it. Because we were created in the image and likeness of God, and God by nature, who is love, by the way, 1 John 4 says God is love. I think it's 1 John 4:18. God is love. So what is the core nature of God? To will good for others. Now, we're created in the image and likeness of God. So if I pursue a relationship with Corey so that he loves me, and I want to feel loved by Corey, this is what I want. Man, Corey, I wish that you just call me more, man. Just tell me how much you love me, One Corey would be like, whoa, that's weird, man. You've had one too many tacos, okay? I am pursuing a relationship out of lust to get something out of Corey. I'm trying to get something out of him instead of trying to freely give. Now, the condition of God is to freely give. He gives. He's a giver. So I need to pursue my relationships in the same way. And I could go on about that, but that's true. And you can try it a different way and tell me how that's worked for you. Trying to get love from other people. Tell me how that's worked for you. Just tell me, consider it and see, has that really worked for you? It tends to never work. The fourth movement of love is that others love us through him. If we're in a community called church, where as a person, I am being loved by God, loving him and loving Zeke, okay? Then Zeke is doing the same thing and he's loving me. Guess what happens? Am I receiving love from Zeke? Yes, I am, because Zeke is trying to love me free of charge, not trying to get love from me. And so what happens is, as we're in a community of apprentices to Jesus, I am giving love, but I also end up receiving love as a byproduct of being in the community. Now, my job isn't to love in order to get. My job is to love freely. But within Jesus's community, together here at church, we end up receiving love because we're here and other people are trying to do the same thing that we are. But it's not built on the lust of getting and satisfying ourselves. Okay, so we have to build our life upon love, these four movements of love. The second is joy, love, joy, and peace. Joy is, here's the definition, a pervasive sense of well-being. Joy is not simply being happy in a moment. Joy is the pervasive sense of well-being, of overall and ultimate well-being. Its primary feeling component is also delight, just like love. It's delight in. What do we feel when we're in a state of joy? Delight. We feel in delight. The noble joy, I don't think, is necessarily the right kind of joy. It's like joy in suffering. well, I'm going to get through this and I'm paying the price and it's going to, I'm doing the right thing. That's a sense of duty. If you are in a state of suffering and you have joy, you don't experience the suffering as suffering without the knowledge of hope for the future that is coming. I'm not worried about the things that happen to me right now because I know that my future is so secured in God. I have nothing to worry about in life. I'm perfectly safe in life. And as we get into the Sermon on the Mount, we're going to see that Jesus is teaching this. I'm perfectly safe in the world. And you look at me and you're like, Richie, you're out of your mind. The world is not a safe place. It's a place filled with people who are hostile, who are taking advantage of you, trying to get out of you. Well, joy is the pervasive sense of well-being. It's not unrealistic. It can only come from a knowledge of being loved by God. That's why love is the highest of all virtues. Joy comes from the knowledge that evil cannot be more powerful than good. That the devil's schemes cannot overwhelm God's schemes. Now, when we get into extreme matters, as I was standing in Auschwitz, I've read accounts of people going through the horrors of the Holocaust. Joy in the midst of that is to understand that Jesus has victory. And it's hard to rationalize that. Like, what if someone abuses my child and or takes their life? How can God have victory over that? Right? I mean, how is this good that this happened to me? These are the very real life dilemmas that we face. If I am constantly worried about whether or not my son is going to be safe in the world, I am trying to control the outcome of his life. And do you think I will be living in a state of peace? And if I'm not at peace, which is that my future is secure in God, then I don't have a pervasive sense of well-being, a well-being that fills every part of my mind and my heart, my body. It's down into my subconscious. It is well with me. Life is well. Everything is well. We really have to wrestle with this, and we're going to get to the point, and I'll actually say it now, but we're going to talk about it a bit more. The secret is to be abandoned to God. So let's talk about, what does Jesus say about joy? Okay, in John 15:11, 16:24, and 17:3. So 3 times in Jesus' final discourse, his final teaching with his disciples before his execution, Jesus says he wants his disciples' joy to be full, not partial joy, full joy. And what does full joy mean? That there's no room for any more. Jesus doesn't want you to have partial joy. He wants you to have full joy. There's no room for any more in your life. You're completely full. To be full of joy then becomes the first line of defense against weakness, failure, and disease of mind and body. Nehemiah 8:10 says, the joy of the Lord is our strength. And Romans 14:17 says, the kingdom of God consists of righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. Joy comes from the Holy Spirit. It's not something that we produce ourselves. It's like me trying to will my car to have more gas. Have more gas. Have more gas. You know, when you run out of gas and you're like, come on, baby. Start it on up. I want just, 3 more ounces of gas. I can get off this exit to the gas station. Come on. We're willing ourselves to have energy that does not exist. Joy comes from the Holy Spirit. So living life by the Holy Spirit is the way that we receive joy. It's a byproduct. We can't directly obtain it. It is given to us as we spend time in God's presence. That's why it says, the joy of the Lord is our strength, and those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. So what do we do to get joy? We wait upon the Lord. Waiting upon him is just simply to acknowledge that he is in control of the outcomes and not me. Parents, you are not in control of the outcomes of your parenting. How your child turns out is not your responsibility. Is that a load off? Because don't we judge one another based on, how each other's kids are? And we feel judged, like when our kid is misbehaving in the store or something and everyone's looking at us, or come on the airplane, you got that baby that's screaming. Everyone's like, whoa. Talk about emotions and feelings, okay? Visceral. People are like, shut that baby up, so help me. Like, how dare your kid? What kind of parent are you that your kid makes noises? The saying, kids are to be seen and not heard. What a horrible thing to say. Can you imagine a kid growing up thinking that they're just to be seen and never heard? Is that the way Jesus treated kids? Is that love? Love delights in. Now, my sons interrupt me constantly. I have a choice in the interruption to receive it as an interruption or to delight in my son. The moment is a choice, and the choices that I make build an image for my son of the father who either loves him or is annoyed, right? And that image becomes an idea that I'm an annoying person, that people don't want to spend time with me. So then my son's disposition becomes someone who feels like nobody likes them. They're worthless, they're annoying, they're a bother. We can't control outcomes, so we rely upon the greatness of God. Waiting upon the Lord is simply like, Lord, I can't control the outcomes of my life, but I know you are the master of my future. So peace, let's talk about peace. Peace is the rest of will that results from assurance about how things will turn out. So our willpower is at rest because we know how things will turn out. It must involve active engagement with good plus assurance that it will turn out well. That we cannot be in peace by simply knowing that God controls the outcomes. We have to be actively doing good and knowing that God controls the outcomes. Okay? If I sit on my couch and I'm like, well, God's in control of how my kids turn out, I won't be at peace, because peace involves action. We do what we need to do. We do the good that we ought to do. And as we do the good, we let go of the results and allow God to worry about those. This takes a tremendous dependence upon grace. Now, grace is God's enabling power. It's not his mercy. Mercy is God's mercy. Grace is God's enabling power. And God is in control of the outcomes. I got to be honest with you. This is a very challenging thing mentally to do, to surrender outcomes without throwing in the towel. Yeah, you need to do good and you need to give the outcomes to God. And this is a difficult thing to do. Ultimately, peace comes only from the acceptance of the gift of life from Jesus. When we accept that Jesus finished it on the cross, he's hanging there on the cross. He says, it is finished. I paid the price. When we accept this gift from God, this is where peace comes from, because we know the ultimate outcome of our life. We are assured of the outcome of our life. If I'm crucified with Christ, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. If I die with Christ, I will be raised with him. What is the future that I have to look forward to? It is life eternal, God completing in me his character. So once again, I'm relying on the greatness of God, that he, as Philippians 1:6 says, he who began a good work in me will carry it on to completion. See, as Christians, we begin to feel God doing a good work in us. But then we have setbacks, we have failures, we trip up, we make mistakes. And it is me understanding that the greatness of God is bigger than my immaturities, and that God will finish that work. So when I accept the gift of the cross in my life, what happens is I know that my future is secure. My ultimate future is secure. You see, the government can take my property. They can take all that I possess. They can take my family from me. They can take my life, but they can't touch my soul. And I am not a physical being who has spiritual experiences. I am a spiritual being who is having a physical experience. When the body perishes, the spirit will remain. My soul goes on to be with the Lord, because God created me to be an eternal being. All of us are eternal beings. We're not temporary. What we see is temporary. But there's evidence of a future that is eternal and that we are a part of. If you are a skeptic or you're not sure of life after death, we have evidence that the soul endures past the death of the body through near-death experiences. People who are clinically dead without brain functioning, then they have experiences, and when they are resuscitated or they come back to life spontaneously, they have logged memories. Okay, if the brain is not functioning and we are only our brain, only physical matter, how do you log memories when you're dead? To be able to recall them. So, for example, one guy died, and as he was dead, he floated up over his body, and he saw a nurse take his dentures and put them in a cup and in a drawer. Okay, he's dead while this happens, but he can see it all. Then he's resuscitated, comes out of the coma like 2 days later, and this particular nurse comes into the room and says, hey, you're the one who took my dentures. I'd like them back. You put them in that drawer. Now, his brain was not functioning at that time, so how could he store the memory if the power's out? It's like trying to save a file on your computer when the power's turned off. Doesn't work that way if the mind is completely dependent on the hardware. But because we have not just one story like that, we have millions of people who have experienced things like this. Because we have those, we can firmly say that the software is not dependent on the hardware. Okay, the mind is not contingent completely upon the brain. Okay? So life exists after death. We can be assured of that. And peace is to know that the future of my life, the outcome of my life is secure in him. The secret to peace is being abandoned to God. Abandon ourselves to God. This is really the rub. This is the secret that every great apprentice of Jesus has learned. You must completely abandon yourself to Jesus, to follow his ways. And when you do this, Jesus says in John 8:31 and 32, when you obey my teachings, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You see, I will break my mind if I try to convince myself that I'm safe in the world without God. It's just simply not true, right? It's just simply not true. But there is a greater truth than the things that happen to me in life if God is real, right? If God is real, then the things of this world carry a lot less weight than the things that happen in the future world that God is bringing about. So, in order to feel safe in the world, which then gives us perfect peace, so the Bible says it's peace that transcends understanding. How can we have peace that transcends understanding? It's only by the presence of God and the full abandonment of our life to him. Come hell or high water, I am going to trust my life to God. I'm going to trust the outcomes of my life to him. No matter what happens, whether I die by evil or live a long life filled with wealth and possessions, I abandon myself to God. It is the reality of God's presence that allows us to feel secure in a world that is insecure. You see, and so like if I'm walking about my day, like there's clearly danger everywhere I go throughout my day. I could get hit by a car, someone could be robbing Fred Meyer with a gun, and boom, I get shot. Or someone in my family gets shot. Like there are clearly dangers that happen, but the understanding that God is so powerful that evil cannot win ever, and understanding that my life does not end upon death. my son's life does not end upon death. It exists into the future, right? And it is a far better existence than we could ever imagine. That is when I can walk around in the freedom of knowing that I'm perfectly secure in the world. And we can only get that way by experiencing God's presence, allowing those thoughts to pass before our mind, to dwell upon them, to meditate on them, until they sink so deep into us that it becomes our subconscious way of reacting to the world. Now, how do we do this? Well, Isaiah 26:3, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts you. See, when we do our times of worship at church, worship is considered to be the most powerful of every spiritual discipline. Why? And it's not just the worship of singing songs, but the song time that we do is so powerful because we spend time meditating, thinking about the greatness of God and the goodness of God, the character, the nature, the power, the accomplishments of God. What has he done in the past? If he's done this in the past, he has the power to do it today. God is present with me. As we allow our mind to dwell upon these things, to be captivated by pictures of them. You see, when we sing songs, there's pictures of who God is, not just words about him. God is great. We can sing God is great. That's wonderful. But then we sing like, open the gates. Dancers will dance upon injustice. I think about that. Like the image of people dancing upon injustice because the justice of God has come upon the land. And people are treated fairly. People are treated in, not just fair, people are treated with goodwill. They're treated in love. That's the ultimate destination. So like loving people overcomes the injustice of society, and we get pictures in our mind. It begins to change the way we think. The information of the song changes the way we think about it. But in order for us to really engage, we have to abandon ourselves to God. This is why biblical worship, fundamentally worship in the Bible means surrender or sacrifice. If you were to worship as a Jew, how would you worship? You would take a lamb or a turtle dove. Okay, I don't think they offered squirrels, but and you would take it to the temple and offer it as a sacrifice. So like giving money at church is an act of worship because it ties in, it's sacrifice to him. And what does the sacrifice mean? I'm abandoning the outcomes to you. The outcomes of my finances are in your hands, not mine. Like that's freeing, but we can only experience that. I love Kelly. She's not here today, probably on a flight. She's like, I didn't believe in tithing. I just thought the pastor wanted my money. And then one day she got convicted by God that she needed to just give it a shot, or maybe the pastor told her, just give it a shot. So she gave it a shot, and sure enough, God proved faithful in taking care of her. And for multiple months, she experienced that God took care of her. So she obeyed what the Bible says. Then she saw the results of the outcomes of that. And now does she believe in giving? Yeah, it's not so hard because she's seen the outcomes. But at the beginning, you can't know the outcomes because it doesn't make sense. Like without God in the picture, how would giving my money away help me to have enough? Like, what? You know? It just works, though. It just works. And then when you put it to the test, you find after time that it works, and then you can trust the principle. I don't have to doubt whether or not God is going to take care, you know, because he has so many times. There's always opportunity for me to sow doubt into my mind. But I allow to think about the reality of what God is. So the two enemy feelings, this is what I'm going to close with. The two enemy feelings, I've talked about these before, is dissatisfaction and fear. Every sin in our life comes from dissatisfaction and fear. Every evil thing comes from dissatisfaction and fear. Dissatisfaction that is left unresolved, what does it turn into? Lusts and pride. Pride is ultimately defined by desire and not by love. It is, above all, the presumption that my desire should be fulfilled, and that it is an injustice, a crying shame, and an injury if they are not. That's what pride is, that my desire should be fulfilled. It is lust and pride at work. John says the world consists of the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. This is the world system, getting what we want, building our life on getting what we want. If we try to get what we want, we will fail. Satisfaction will slip through our fingers like sand. So imagine a world filled with people who are trying to get their desires filled. This world of people that are trying to fill their desires become little dictators and manipulators, doing whatever they can. They use and abuse others in order to feel satisfaction. And they find that less and less satisfies them, and more manipulation is needed to try to get any feeling at all. So if satisfaction and fear are the ultimate evil feelings, okay, dissatisfaction and fear, I should say, how do we combat those? It's quite simple, right? We find satisfaction in God. And we find peace that my outcome, my future is secure, and nothing can change that.